wherever it is you're tuning in from. Today I am in Dallas, Texas. So big hello to everybody in Texas. Yeah, Clara Alexander is in the country. Today I want to talk about actually something that we've probably kind of put to the back of our minds. But I want to talk about COVID and the effect on mental health. And this was a topic that came to me actually while I was on the plane, because as I was on the plane, as you do, you watch all these movies, and I decided I was going to watch one of these episodes of Stephen Bartlet from Diary of a CEO. And he had on there a lady, can't remember her name. Jeez, I've got to start remembering people's names. But she was talking about mental health, and she was talking about neuroplasticity and the brain and how the brain works and all that kind of stuff. And she was, clearly knows her game. So I'm not going to try and repeat anything in terms of that, because, yes, she does way more than me. And, I don't want to come here and start telling you stuff that I don't know much about. However, she said something which kind of made me think. And she basically said that, post-COVID, our mental health has been impacted because I know this thing, there's something called cortisol. Yeah, I'm learning cortisol. And basically the levels of cortisol should go up and go down in your body, and everything should go up and down, and that's regular and it's basically related to stress. So when you're stressed, cortisol level goes up, but good stress per se is when it goes up, and then your body can regulate it so it can go back down again, and so on and so forth. This is just like very high level. However, when your levels of cortisol is like elevated on a continuous basis, then that's not good for you. And when that happens, stuff happens in your body, like your health gets impacted, the way you operate gets impacted. There's just so many things that gets disrupted, because when your cortisol levels are high, you're kind of like in a position of almost protection. So your body feels like it needs to protect itself against something. So, and your body, and you'll do one of three things, and you'll either flee, or you will fight, or you will just like freeze. Those three things. So the 3 F's. You either flee from the situation because you think, oh my gosh, this is way too bad. I can't deal with it. Or you fight for it because you're like, what, this is mine. I've got to fight for it. Or you'll just freeze because you're like, I don't know what to do. And when your cortisol levels are high, if a particular threat comes to you, like for example, I don't know, like you're walking down the street and a car suddenly runs past you and you suddenly freeze, that's a response to it. However, if you're in that mode continuously, there's a problem. And what she mentioned was like, people's mental state post-COVID is different to what their mental state was pre-COVID. And I can totally relate to that, because I don't know if you remember, well, most of you do remember, like in COVID, we had this period of time where we thought that everything was going to be scarce. So number one, a lot of us were in fear. So fear got incited into us because there was this thing that happened and nobody knew what the cure was, and nobody knew what was going to happen, and people were dying, loved ones were dying. The news was constantly reporting about it. So we were in a state of, we need to protect ourselves. So our body automatically was like, I need to protect myself. And remember, we were in this period for a long period of time. So because we felt we needed to protect ourselves, we were doing crazy things like toilet roll. We were like, we got to stock up on toilet roll, to the point that toilet roll in the whole of the UK, and I'm sure in other countries, ran out. Why toilet roll? Of all things, toilet roll. And I'm thinking about this now, and I'm realizing that we were in such a state that we did crazy things. We would do things like, somebody's walking across the road and we'll cross over the road to go as far as possible from the person in case we caught COVID. We will do silly things like stock up on our food just in case we ran out. We were really, really in that mode. And our cortisol levels, every single one of us, I'm sure, were raised and elevated to a level. Then what happened over a period of time is like, oh, everything's okay. We can go back to work. Let's go back to normal. So everybody went back to their normal life or tried to go back to their normal life, not realizing that your mental health had been impacted and shifted and changed because you'd now had this experience, and that experience cannot be taken away from you. And to think that we are walking about as if nothing happened, that's an issue. That's a big issue. And I feel like, every single one should have been offered counseling. Everybody, like everyone should have been offered counseling. If we chose to take it or not, that's a different kettle of fish, because we went through such a traumatic period. And some people's trauma was worse than others. Just the fact that you couldn't literally bury your parents if they died. The fact that, somebody went into hospital and they didn't come back out again. The fact that you yourself had COVID and you thought you were going to die. All those things, it never ever has it happened in our lifetime. And we are just trying to go back to normal life. Do step by step, do what's expected of us, go back to the same job that we had before, do the things that we did before in the same way. No, it is not possible. Like, unless we have had our mental health checked, I would say to everybody without fail, go to your doctor. Go to your doctor, because some things happened. And we have to acknowledge that thing has happened. And what you can see post-COVID is like, people are not the same. People are no longer embracing the world like they used to. There's a lot of angry people. There's a lot of scared people. Mental health issues have gone up through the roof. But yet, how is this being treated? How is it that we are being told, hey, you know what? As a country, we need to deal with this on a continuous basis, not on an isolated basis, but on a countrywide basis. It needs to be treated. And one key thing about the fact that we haven't healed is there was this program that came out on TV, and I think it's called, was it Breathe or something? I don't know. Gosh, here's another one I don't know. I'm going to put the information in because I should have done my homework. But anyway, I think it's called Brief, and it was about the NHS and how they coped through the COVID period and stuff. Do you know a lot of people cannot watch it because they say it brings back horrid memories of the time? That's an indication that we're not there yet. And that's an indication that we cannot just go back into our normal lives and do things as if nothing happened. That's an indication that the government needs to do something. The government really needs to do something, because a lot of the things that are happening, a lot of the ways in which we are responding is not normal. It's not right. And this is why it's so important to, to realize that we as human beings are wired in a specific way. We're meant to be wired in a specific way. And when that comes out of alignment, we start to act in different ways. We start not to trust the way in which we used to trust. We start not to think about or have dreams the way we used to have dreams. And we also start to question, hey, why would God allow such a thing to happen to my life, to my family, to my situation? But I am here to tell you, as I always am here to tell you, that, God does love you. And I don't know why COVID happened. I don't know. I do not have a direct dial to God to ask him that question. And he hasn't said to me, hey, my daughter, this is why COVID happened. So I don't know. So I cannot give you that news. But I do know that he loves you. And I do know that through whatever situation and circumstances we go through, that he's there. He is fighting for us, working through us. He is there with us. In it, he is in the battle. And I feel like, there's some things that God will do automatically, because God can heal our mental health instantly like that. But there's also things in which God will partner with us. And I feel like God is saying that we all need to check our mental health. We all need to know that it is part and parcel of our makeup. The ability for us to go into protective mode is part and parcel of our makeup. But if we stay in that mode, then there's something wrong. And if we try and operate from that position, then there's something wrong. Like if you're struggling, ask God, speak to God and say, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm even having these thoughts. Some people are even having suicidal thoughts as a result of COVID, and they don't know it's as a result of COVID. They don't realize it's because their body's trying to protect them, to say, hey, if you did this, then you're going to be okay. If you're not on the earth anymore, you're going to be okay. Life is going to be good. And because you're not checking actually where is this voice coming from, because you don't realize that it's because of a situation that's happened. So what I feel like I want to say is that, go to God and ask God to show you what your mental health is, show you the status of it, ask God for healing over it, so that you can stop the negative thoughts, because there's a lot of negative thoughts going around in many people's heads at this moment. What if the situation happens again? What if we go to another lockdown? And people are running their lives on this basis. They're trying to create protection. And what's happening is that we're becoming insular and we're becoming selfish, because I need to make sure that I'm okay, I'm good. I have got my my own self sorted, in case something else will happen, in case maybe not COVID, but in case another kind of stuff like this nature would happen. But what God is saying is that you need to live life and live it to the abundance. He's given it to you to live it to the abundance. Things happen in this world. Yes, I know. Don't know why. Don't know what we can do, Like I said, don't have the answers, but I do know there is a God that loves you. And I do know that with every situation, we need to put it into his hands. We need to put our hearts into his hands. We need to put our mental health into his hands, but we also need to seek help. So if you have not checked your mental health since COVID, I would say just have a word with your doctor. Just have a word, go see a therapist, even if it's just one free session, to see whether you have been affected by it. And I am pretty sure that most of us have been. Like, if we've been seeking God in the period and God's been healing us through the COVID, then we may not be as bad. We may be okay. Because we've worked through our mental health issues whilst we've been going through it. But if we haven't, if we've just gone through lockdown, closed our doors, and then come back out again and started to go back into work and started to go back into normal life, then there's a good chance that your children really need to go and get yourself checked out mentally, to make sure that everything aligns back up again, because there has been a dislodgement, and that needs to be aligned the way that God has aligned your mental health. The UK, we look at mental health like it's an illness, like, oh, I'm not going to see a therapist unless there's something physically wrong with me, unless, I know I've got a mental problem, because the idea that we put behind mental health is like somebody in a nut house. That's what we look at when we think about mental health. We think it's a weakness. We think we shouldn't do it. The US is different, because in the US, people have a shrink. Literally, almost everybody in the US will have one. If they can afford to have one, they'll have one. It's by default. It's just like, yeah, I've just gone to see my therapist. So, and we need to get that way in the UK as well. Not because there is anything wrong in that sense, but because we always need to make sure we're looking after our mental health the same way as we look after our body, the same way in which we go to the gym and we look after our external body, the same way that we look after our spiritual body, our spiritual well-being. The same way we need to look at our mental health as well, because the mental health is going to spill into every other part of your life. If you're not mentally well, and if you're not mentally healthy, then you'll find you're physically ill, you'll find you're emotionally ill, and these things will start cropping up in your body, and you can have actual physical illness as a result of it. So yeah, that's what I want to talk about. It was just, I thought, when I heard it, I was like, you know what? Actually, it's true. I think it's true. I think people do need to go check out themselves. So yeah, that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about. But before I go, I want you to know that God loves you. He loves you so much. And you know what? He loves you that if you will just go to him and ask him anything, he will answer you. He wants your heart. And he wants you to know that if you put your heart in his hand, it's in the safest place that it possibly can be in. You know, I know that. So I would just say do it. And I want you also to know that I love you. And if you want to choose between my love and God's love, I would say choose God's love, because his love is far more than my love, you know. So choose his love all the time, every single day of the week. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.